Good afternoon, Caribbean, East Coast of the United States, and good morning to the people all the way in the other side in the westmost place of the United States. We are here again in one of our cross-territorial dialogues. This evening or this morning, we have 5 wonderful young leaders from each territory of the United States. And I am just very excited to have you all here. My name is Adi Martinez Roman. I am co-director of Right to Democracy. And as you know, if you have attended to our other dialogues, we are working to confront the colonial framework that affects U.S. territories. And in doing so, we are building a movement, an ecosystem. These dialogues are part of this work because we bring together people from each territory to speak about their experiences, share challenges, and share solutions to those challenges, and also build solidarity among us. But first of all, I need to do some housekeeping rules. We have a translator with us today. And if some of us speak in Spanish, you can press the little interpretation command below, and you can select the language of preference that you want to hear this conversation on. If you speak Spanish, you can keep it in like normal. You don't have to choose one. But if you speak one only, you should choose that language. Buenas, mi nombre es Adi Martínez Román, soy codirectora de Right to Democracy y para los que han participado antes de nuestro diálogo, saben que hay una función de traducción que está en la parte de abajo del menú donde está el círculo de interpretación. Deben de presionar ese círculo y escoger si quieren escuchar la conversación en español. Gracias siempre a Katira Álvarez por estar con nosotros esta tarde de hoy para hacer esa interpretación. So back to English. We are going to kick it off by introducing Eduardo Ortiz, part of the Right to Democracy staff, and who is going to be leading this conversation. I personally asked Eduardo to be our moderator tonight because he himself also has a spectacular Instagram page where he has built content on the challenges faced by U.S. territories and impacting the narrative in the U.S. So Eduardo is going to share in the chat the address of his page so others can go see it, but and he's going to do it afterwards. But I'm going to kick it to him so he can start our conversation of tonight. Thank you so much. I'll be here participating with y'all.
Thank you so much, Ali, and welcome everyone attending from home, everyone who will be listening in the future to this recording. Thank you for joining this wonderful conversation. I'm so excited to be here. So my name is Eduardo Ortiz. As Adi said, I'm advocacy director here at Right to Democracy. And yeah, like Adi said, thank you all for joining us this evening, noon, morning, depending on where you are. We're so excited to host this specific dialogue titled Influencers Confronting Colonialism through Social Media, with advocates from the 5 territories who have used their online presence and their platforms to speak on their communities. And they've tackled social, political, cultural issues that their territories face, their communities face. and all obviously within the lens of all this particular relationship with the U.S., right, and the complications that come from that. And in this dialogue, we want to hear from them how they imagined their work, how they came to start their work, their objectives, and how they think that more cross-territorial work can be done, and what are the keys to success in that venture, right? So just to get us started here, I'm going to kick it off to the different participants here to kind of introduce themselves, give us your name, where you're based out of, kind of a brief description of your work, kind of your platforms and the nature of the work that's brought you here, and something that you want more people to know about your territory. So name, location, nature, and brief description of the work that brings you here, and something that you want more people to know about your territory. All right? So if anybody wants to kick us off, feel free.
Okay, I'll go first. Can you guys hear me? Hafa Day, hello. My name is Annalie Villagomez, aka Ana Lafet. I'm located here on the island of Saipan in the Northern Mariana Islands in the Pacific Ocean, north of Guam. I am here today because I have a belief in reviving our Marianas in terms of language, culture, tradition, all of that. So I have this discovery where I grew up in Saipan, went up north of Saipan through the other islands and discovered that it was magnificent, volcanic islands in the Ring of Fire. And when I saw was up there, I decided to go up there and live up there and experience it. Came back, I told the students I will go back up there and share everything I learned about North, because not a lot of people know about these uninhabited islands. And the reason why I want to do this, not just for language, is because also militarization. If we don't know what we don't know about, we won't care about. So I decided to explore the North because everybody knows Saipan and South, and hoping that our kids would come back from school if they go off island. Would like for them to return and be here and contribute. What else?
One thing you would like more people to know about your territory.
The one thing I'd like people to know about is that we have been here for long throughout 4 administration. We have the Spaniards, we have the Germans, and then we have the Japanese, and then the Americans. So we have like been through so much, and it'd be nice for people to know that we have really made an impact, you know, and being a part of this, being an American, U.S. territory.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Does anybody want to go next?
I'll go next. Sorry, Edward. Talafalava, my name is Jaya Tawaswi Simemativa Sailua. I identify as Samoan Fa'afafine before I identify as a transgender woman. I come from a tiny island in the middle of the South Pacific, Tutuila Island in American Samoa. It's an unorganized, unincorporated territory of the United States. Brief background, a platform was created for me in 2011 when FIFA recognized me as the first out trans person to play in a FIFA sanctioned tournament. Since then, I've been on FIFA's radar for many, many years. Just last year, I was made a FIFA legend by President Infantino himself. I was the subject of a documentary called Next Go Wins that premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival in New York City, that eventually was made into a Hollywood feature film by director Taika Waititi, Maori director Taika Waititi, that was released last year throughout the world. What was the last thing? Something that I want the audience to know. American Samoa's biggest export is human beings. Um, we have the biggest enlistment of military personnel per capita in the United States, and we have the biggest drafts of NFL players per capita in the league. And then another fun fact, I know we're supposed to say one, but American Samoa is the last place on Earth to see the sunset every single day. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, Edward, do you want to go next? Since you were jumping at the bit.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes. Yeah, so buenos and Hafa day, everyone. My name is Edward Leon Guerrero. Even though the last name, some of you may think I'm from Puerto Rico or some other place, but it's a Chamorro last name in the Marianas. So yes, I am from the Marianas, specifically the southern island of Guam or Guahan, right? And my background and my work includes social media advocacy in education specifically. I feel like I want to empower the people, our people, everywhere throughout the world through education, through videos. And that's one of the primary themes. And one of my big thing is the decolonization and self-determination of every single U.S. territory that is still here today. And specifically for my islands, I would also like to see the decolonization of Guam, self-determination of Guam, and also hopefully the eventual unification of Guam and the CNMI. And one thing I want people to know about my territory, let's see. Maybe this isn't a good being the first at something, but we are the first Guam, along with the Marianas in general, is the first territory to ever be colonized in this Pacific area by the Spanish. I don't know if that's a good thing of being first, but hey, it's one of the first. So the Marianas is one of the longest colonized territory in that specific part of the world.
Thank you. Thank you. Wants to continue here.
Hi, good evening. My name is Gabrielle Carrard, and I live on the island of St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. I am a content creator. I began creating content when I realized that there were not a lot of Virgin Islands voices in social media spaces, particularly TikTok is where I got my start. And then I began making content on Instagram and Facebook that cover a lot of Caribbean inspired content with a focalization on Virgin Islands history and culture. And then I am also the co-producer and co-host of the Caribbean's only paranormal podcast of its kind. So my co-host and I collect paranormal stories, true paranormal stories that have taken place in the Caribbean region. And we can be found on Apple and Spotify. And our intention behind this is because we believe that digitizing these stories and having discussions that kind of open up cultural context and historical background is really important to us exploring our past, but also laying a foundation for future Caribbean people to enjoy stories that get lost when people pass away. Something that I would love more people to know about the territory of the Virgin Islands is that we are the location of one of the very first successful slave insurrections in the Caribbean. And we have put forth some of the most brilliant and talented people to come out of the region. Like we have, Olympians, and we have people who have done great work politically in the United States, but also in the broader world. Some of our Virgin Islanders have paved the way for like socialism and Black feminist theory, and yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And then last but not least, Robin, you want to go for it?
Yes, hi. I hope. So hi to everybody. My name is Maralis Rivera. That is my legal name. but people in social media know me as Robin Lee. I am a journalist, a freelance journalist for now, because I am currently in my last year of university studying communications. Basically, I have been living my entire life in Puerto Rico. I am born and raised in Puerto Rico. And I decided to advocate for the liberty of Puerto Rico by educating people, mostly on the platform of TikTok. I would say it was mostly accidentally, because I just talk about history mostly. And in the process of talking about history, I realized that I was getting involved in a narrative that people were interested in. Maybe the education system in Puerto Rico is so broken that people just didn't know basic stuff that I would read about every day in books, in articles, in just academic papers. I was reading about it as a journalist or just as a hobby, but people were just not involved in this history. For me, it was like, oh my God, did you know about this? Or did you know that Puerto Rico went through this? And people in social media, I mostly work on TikTok, were like, oh my God, they didn't teach me this in school. How could I not know this? We live through this every day. So after that, I just decided to educate people. I've been on different panels. I also do interviews on my YouTube channel. And I have decided to mostly also interview people throughout the different territories from the U.S. I have already interviewed people from Hawaii and from Guam, and hearing their histories has also been very great. But also sharing our histories that maybe we didn't know we had so much in common. So yeah, thank you for having me here.
Real thing about your territory that you want more folks to know about.
Oh yes, there's a purpose. There's something where there's a reason why Puerto Rico is called Puerto Rico, and it's not just the economic status that we had mostly throughout Spain, because right now we're going through something very difficult, as mostly all of the territories. But there's a reason we're called Puerto Rico, and that's because of our rich culture, rich way of people interact with each other. And that is why the U.S. has not been able to get out of here, I guess, because we have something more than just the economic side. We're rich in everything that Puerto Rico has to offer. So yeah.
Thanks, everyone. A great panel, a great sort of group of folks, a great sort of spread of different cultures, different sort of platforms, even different approaches to everything. So real quick, I just diving right in, I wanted to ask you first how you decided to kind of become involved in advocacy, especially in the online space. Number one, sort of why you came to that decision. Number two, what have been your like objectives? What have been like the main things that you've targeted and wanted to do, like who you wanted to reach, how, what messages, and then finally, what have been the most effective strategies that you've found when getting your message out there, when communicating, when educating, when bringing awareness? So how you became involved, what have been your objectives since you got involved, and what were the most effective strategies? Who wants to kick it off?
I'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, I got started because I didn't hear a lot of Virgin Islands voices in social media spaces. And I feel like when TikTok came online and became really popular, especially during the pandemic, it offered an opportunity for people to go viral and for their content to be seen by people that would otherwise not be able to see it in like Facebook and Instagram algorithms. And so I took that as an opportunity to speak about what I was passionate about, and I was passionate about the Virgin Islands, not expecting that there would be more people that would also be interested in like the culture and the history, but getting deeper into, you know, like why do we wear certain jewelry pieces, and exploring some of the things that we say, the etymology of the words that we use and how it's interconnected with our history, both our indigenous history and our colonial history. And so I was doing that, and I'm also deeply, deeply passionate about the supernatural and the paranormal. I am the manager of a metaphysical shop, and I believe in ghosts and all the things, but I also believe in the power of these stories to bind us together and to create connections across the region. When we can get to a place where we acknowledge that a lot of our belief systems are so interwoven with each other, and truly makes up a beautiful tapestry. My objectives have actually shifted over time. When I initially started, I just wanted to do a cute little, um, a cute little social media thing. And I started to really explore our history. And the more I explored, the more I felt connected, but the more I also felt responsible for bringing the history forward for my people who I think have been disconnected for a very long time. And I think that we've lacked a lot of Virgin Islands pride and substantial Virgin Islands pride, but I also recognized that we have a lot of issues because of our coloniality, and our internalized colonialism, I would say, is probably our biggest threat to our ability to hopefully liberate ourselves, because we've never been able to self-determine. Um, and so what I found to be the most effective strategies is storytelling. And I think it's actually why the paranormal storytelling enraptures me, but also the storytelling of everyday Virgin Islanders, the triumphs and the tribulations, and the way that our stories connect us and bind us across the island chain, but also across the islands within the Virgin Islands. Because as much as we are the Virgin Islands, I don't think a lot of people know that we have a lot of feuding that happens from island to island, and just differences with cultures, but also our colonial status prioritizes tourism. And unfortunately, St. Thomas seems to always get the highlight of the federal dollars. And so islands like St. John and St. Croix are largely forgotten. And I think it stymies our ability to collaborate and work together, because we also feel this adversarial spirit amongst us.
I kind of wanted to react a little bit, Gabriel, because you did invite me to search for stories for your podcast. I think it's amazing because as I grew up here in Puerto Rico, there's always all these fascinating stories um, of spiritual things or things that you don't know why happen, and it's part of, like you say, of our culture. And um, definitely, as I was able, right, to democracy, we did this listening tour last year. I was able to go to all the territories. I was always told some type of a spiritual story, each one. So I think you're definitely on track on something here. And I am going to take some time to try to identify one for you.
I would love that. And part of the goal here for my co-host and I, her name is Paulina Creaky. We're both ancestral Virgin Islanders. We can trace our family back in this region for several hundred years. Part of the reason why I feel like this is very important to us is because we want to be accountable to the dead. Like these stories, they are bits and pieces of oral tradition that is so connected to resistance, and resistance over time, but also love. I believe that the storytelling that we have here in the Caribbean, but also in our fellow territories who share in that spirit of resistance. I think storytelling is a labor of love. And I think it is the proof of love that has been left behind by people who are no longer walking the earth with us.
Wonderful, thank you, and thanks, Adi, for chiming in. You love to see some cross-territorial solidarity and sharing. All right, who would like to go next?
I'll go.
Thank you.
So I came into advocacy in 2011, like I mentioned, when the platform was created for me by FIFA. It wasn't something that I pursued. It almost felt like a responsibility that was given to me without first my knowledge, and then secondly, and more importantly, without my want to take on the responsibility of being the voice of trans athletes and LGBTQI plus athletes around the world. And because in those early stages of my advocacy, I was disinterested, I sought, I went looking for people to help guide me. And the problem with that is I then began to adapt their narrative. I began to adapt the LGBTQI plus narrative. Not that it's bad, but I found myself later on saying things that I personally did not believe, that were not significant to my experience and were not true to my indigenous identities. And so now that I'm an adult and more aware of the power I have and the influence I have, the impact I have, and the ability I have to share my own truth and still help shape lives around the world, I began to focus more on the Fa'afafine identity, the significance it has to the Samoan culture. And then I pushed it a step further and focused on the MVP FAF community, which is the Pacific SOGS community that recognizes just the indigenous significance of our identities in the region. So yeah, sometimes the idea of progressiveness in Western societies doesn't necessarily work for indigenous places in the world that recognize more than two genders, or other genders even, that are outside of the Western normative dominant genders, the male and female. And that has become my focus. Just helping, first and foremost, the Samoan youth, helping them to decolonize their minds when it comes to the identities of LGBTQI plus and the Fa'afafine identity. I want them to know that it's enough to be a Fa'afafine, and they don't necessarily have to fit themselves into boxes that are colonial terms, that come with colonial stigma, with colonial discrimination, things that aren't a part of our existence as Samoan Fa'afafine. We grew up very comfortable in American Samoa, in the Cook Islands, in Tonga. Because we are recognized by our culture, we have value in our traditional roles. And that has been my focus for the past 5 years. I'm grateful for all the opportunities that I've had to be a voice for transgender athletes, but I've switched on I switched that off because I've learned more about the power of my indigenous identity. Yeah, so that's my objective. Also, I found that when I did shift my narrative, I got a lot more following. I think it's because people started to recognize the passion I had speaking about Fa'afafine and MVP FAF cultures, Samoan cultures, Pacific cultures. And the most effective strategies for me are, the simple ones are the timing of when you post. I found that usually when people are waking up in the morning, that's when they touch their phone mostly. And then on their lunch breaks and before they go to bed. But also posting content that is that I'm passionate about, climate injustice, SOGS empowerment, decolonization of the minds for me, because decolonization of American Samoa is a completely different story, and I feel like we're a really small territory. Our population is only 60,000 people. I don't think we could survive a full decolonization from the United States, but we've managed to survive this much as an unorganized, unincorporated territory of the United States. Just words, English words that have no, that hold no weight on the nature of the way of life of my people here. Sorry, I just went off for a little bit, but yeah, those are effective strategies. Just speaking to your following about the things that you're passionate about. For me, it's sports, SOGS advocacy, and climate injustice. Those are the things that are specific to my people and to my region. So yeah, if you have any questions, just comment or ask afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Edward, do you want to go?
Yeah, I could go next. Yes, so I became involved in social media, which is a very similar way that our fellow panelists from the Virgin Islands, Gabriel, got involved, which is I noticed something very particular when I was on YouTube, when I was on social media, which is the lack of Chamorro or Mariana's focused content, right? Specifically on history, on decolonization. Not to say that there wasn't any, but I just noticed that in terms of, these short video, quick formats, I really didn't find anything. And the irony is that I could find content on Japan, I could find content on France, I could find content on China, but I couldn't really find any content about Guam or the broader Marianas. And so I saw that gap, and that's where I decided to, you know what? If no one else is going to do it, I might as well start and do this. And that's what got me into making Pulan Speaks, which is my channel name on YouTube. I'm primarily on YouTube. And I would say that the objective that I've always had ever since I started my social media advocacy and education platform was always for the specific goal of self-determination for the territory of Guam, for my island, for my people. Because Guam, like many of the other territories, are one of the very few territories as listed by the United Nations non-self-governing territories, and we have the right to external self-determination. Now, whether decolonization for Guam means independence, free association, or some statehood or some other status, to me, as long as we get that choice, that's what matters to me. And I would say that the most effective strategies that I have that haven't been said already, right, is, and this is going to sound crazy when I say this, and this may actually make people who are sports analysts very mad at me. But I would say this, for me, the effective strategy for me is to ignore the analytics, to ignore the stats, and to just keep posting. Be consistent. Just post. Just post. And it doesn't matter whether your video gets 1 like, 100 likes, or 10,000 likes. Just keep posting. Don't worry about what you did yesterday. Don't worry about what you did in the past. Focus on what you're going to do now. Focus on what you will do, and just keep posting and be consistent, right? And of course, speak with passion, speak with your heart. But I will always say this, just keep posting and ignore the stats.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for that insight. I'm getting there's lots of great strategic, there's technical advice, kind of thematic advice, substantive advice, even sort of mental and emotional. I'm really appreciating kind of the breadth of opinions and advice folks are getting here. So to kick it off, Robin, do you want to go next?
Yes. So like I mentioned before, I kind of got into social media advocacy by accident because I was active on social media since 2016, but I was making different kind of content. And in 2018, when I got into TikTok content, Mostly, that's when I was starting to study communications, and I was getting into reading history, reading academic papers, and everything that involved our history. When I got more deep into that, I realized that lot of our laws that were making us and still are making us suffer as Puerto Ricans were mostly because of our history. And this is something that is really still growing. It's a movement that is growing of people, and mostly young people, who are curious about our history for a change. We have been led by two specific parties for the last 78 and plus years, who have just taken us to, well, misery, if I could say. Like, they have this narrative where basically, oh, if you become independent, you're gonna be communist, or you're gonna go and you're not gonna survive, or just they have this narrative that is so disinformed, and people are just have been voting for the same two parties, just stuck in fear of, we have this, which is really bad, but they think that we can go worse. So right now there's elections coming in November, and there has been so many young people who have just gotten tired. Puerto Rico, I could say, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, that we get a lot of attention from the U.S. Specifically, we are an island in the specifically very centered of the Caribbean. So we are a very strategic military point. We are just a few, I can say, just so close to the Panama Canal. So we are just also a very strategic point for like business. And the U.S. has not wanted to give us self-determination or just options, even though recently we had gotten like congresistas like for example AOC or Nidia Velázquez, who are Puerto Rican, that are in Congress. They have looked for maybe give us an options. Well, they tried, sort of, because they started this project that got turned down, basically, where they gave us three options. They said, do you want to become a state? Do you want to go independent? Or do you just want to continue being a colony? And basically, that did not go through. Like, that just stayed in the air. Like, so many people here sadly think that statehood is the best option, not knowing that there's so many wrong ways that could go. So my objectives is just basically to help educate in all the ways that I can, just help with getting to know my history so I can share it with others. And the most effective strategies that I have seen is, it has become part of our culture right now. It's, like I said, a growing movement, because people are just tired. We're tired of not having basic stuff, like not having electric power, not having water, our food getting damaged because there's no electric power. And yeah, people are just starting to get tired of that, and we're advocating for change. So just talking about our things, talking about the news, and just spreading information and education is the strategies that have worked. So yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate
Thank
the
you, Robin. I just wanted to comment that, we on Right to Democracy precisely were created out of the concern of how of determination, in spite of all the fights in the territories from all ideologies. Like, doesn't matter if it was pro-statehood organizations, independence organizations, or free association, none of it was moving on, because there is still a need for a reckoning of the situation by the government of the United States. And that's why for us it's very important, as we are building a movement, to make all people from the territories with any ideology of status to feel that they can be part of a movement to confront the government that has kept this legal framework, this situation of status quo of unincorporated territories under the plenary powers of Congress. And that's why right to democracy always tries not to, it always tries not, doesn't go into what this result of self-determination should look like, because it is those divisions that has kept us from ourselves building solidarity and confronting the colonial framework. So that's interesting to have all these people here with different ideas and building this common ground between us, which is so important. And having people like you, all of you, each one of you, to bring out education, to bring out awareness of our history, of how, right, it has evolved through the years, and many of it is not discussed on the schools. It's stuff that you don't learn, like you were saying. It is stuff that we are not conscious of. So I'm really thankful for your work. And I have to recognize, like you say, that we have this group of young people, influencers in Puerto Rico that has been growing and growing and expanding. I know that, I don't know half because of my generation. I'm a, I got with Facebook and Instagram, and that's it. I cannot deal with anything else. But I know how potent it is. And I know, like you say, how it has motivated people to go and register to vote. And hundreds and hundreds of people are going to register to vote. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, Edward, I'm sorry. I just had to tell her all that,
No,
privilege. Sorry.
absolutely,
Go ahead.
absolutely. Sure. And then kicking things off, I think, Annalie.
Hi again. Okay, so it all started with my art. I mean, I've always been posting because I travel a lot, but it started with my art, thinking there are a lot of artists out there, and I wanted to encourage them to paint and just keep painting. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna go north to the islands north of Saipan and realize, you know what, I think I need to know how it's like to be like our ancestors, living off the land, bartering, and just naturally just be healthy, detox, all of that. Went up there, saw the place, and decided to come back and let everybody know about what's up there, the beauty of it. I came into advocacy because of the children nowadays. They are kind of like, they are not speaking the language anymore. They go to the States, they don't want to come back. Even I myself would be like, I don't want to go back home and be there for a long time. I always leave. But as you grow and you realize you keep coming back and you keep coming back, you're like, you know what? It really is amazing to be home. But why do we have to wait until we get older? So I decided I need to, when I went to Guam, I learned a lot about my history as a Chamorro. And so I noticed in Guam that it's so populated, overpopulated. Chamorros are outnumbered. It's so busy, all these military and everything. It's just a bunch of people over there. And I noticed that the language is just dying, of course, because there's just so many other people over there. And then I come home to Saipan and I'm going, we still got it. I speak the language, I speak it fluently, but what about the rest? So I realized, you know what happened? Then, of course, our history, all those administrations, the Spaniards, the Germans, the Japanese, and then the Americans. So when I think about it, the only way for me to reach out to these guys is, let's start with, why are there activists in Guam, right? So I was like, when I went to Guam, I'm like, why are they angry, right? You know, I watch it in the movie, but now I sit in Guam and I'm going, these are my people. Why are they angry? So I realized because they're trying to protect something beautiful. And the thing that I discovered was the islands north of Saipan are volcanic, and nobody really lives up there. I mean, Alamagan, Pagan, and Agrigan, yes, but just a few. Most of them work for the mayor of the Northern Islands. So we're talking about only like 3 people in Alamagan, 2 people right now in Pagan, and maybe 3 people in Agrigan, and that's very little. So I went up there, saw the place, came back, and decided, you know what, I need to tell these people why these activists are angry. And it's one of them is because of the islands north of them, well, north of Saipan. And so I told him what was beautiful up there, because that's why people get angry, because the military come and they want it, and people want to go, like investors want to go and invest up there and just continue to destroy what's amazing that I've discovered up there. Fish are large, coconut crabs are abundant, they have lobster, they have shells that we adore, this orange spondylus, that's one of our key pieces. Chamorro money beads, you know, it just speaks out. So I decided to just say, hey, you guys, you know what? You know, those activists that I saw out there, I wonder why they were angry. Well, you know what? And one of them is something that I like to share with you guys is the beauty of what we have here in the Marianas. You think we only have Saipan, Tinian, and Rota and Guam as the Marianas, but we have more. And I was really, really amazed about what I discovered. So I started to post my video. So I went up there. I stayed in Agrigan. The longest was 8.5 months. Almagan is 3 months. No power, no water, no store, nothing. So these first 3 months in Alamagan, I posted. I wasn't very good at it in social media. And then I decided, okay, the most popular social media platforms to reach out all ages in the Mariana Islands abroad, ages from the Mariana Islands and abroad, and here at home. I did Instagram, Facebook, we got TikTok, you know. I just went in there and I just started doing YouTube. And when I posted about the 8.5 months in Agrigan, I'm not even done yet. I still have a lot. And I returned from 2019. I posted, and like Pulan says, Edward says, is keep posting and posting and posting. And I feel like if I stop posting, I lose the momentum. So I have gone to schools with my information, and I've done it since 2019 and went to today. Every time I come back to Saipan, I go to the schools for free. Like, I don't get paid. I just go to the schools, and all the public schools and private schools if I can. If they ask me to come, I come, and I talk about hashtag Revive Marianas. I say, I'm here because what we don't know about, we won't care about, and our language is dying. And as far as, you know, if we don't practice our culture, then we won't really hear our language. So we don't farm, for instance, right? You know, the reason why we won't be farming is because we have all these people coming in from outside, you know, introducing what they know. And we have to have a movement to come together and practice what we know as a people, because this is important. Because if you really think about it, if all these administration had happened yesterday, we would be correct today. But because that was a long time ago, it doesn't mean we should forget, right? So we need to help each other bring back the people we are, because I know everybody has their own culture, their own beliefs, and their own ways. But as a people, okay, we're good people. But when it comes to all these jobs to like conquer and have power and everything, our culture eventually has to die because of the influence from outside. So whatever this movement is that I discovered with you guys, this is amazing. And I want to share that consistency is correct. I also want to mention that when I watched, as far as identity, right? When we don't know our identity, we end up probably becoming a gangster or doing some other things that don't really matter, or trying to figure out how to be a better person. Who am I? All that stuff. So I realized this to be very important, identity, when I watched the that video the film I Am Tomorrow from Guam. And when I watched that, that really touched me because I have noticed some kids, some people, even our age, you know, older even, they tend to feel lost. Like, you know, like for me, for instance, I'm like, I miss home, and I miss the sun, I miss the ocean, I miss my family. And then imagine if I didn't even know about how to be tomorrow or where I'm from, then I probably like, you know, what next, right? My my word here is Pasafa, right? Pasafa. Now what? What are we gonna do about it? So what? And what? Then what? Right? What are we gonna do about it? So, like, what do you call it? You guys have said, you know, someone has to step up and speak about these things. Identity. Once you know your
Thank
identity, you're a strong person.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, the context and that's such a good message of making sure that identity is preserved, and I think a real through line in a lot of these answers for sure. Okay, so real quick,
And
just for
sorry
time's
to
sake.
interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt, and I know we're short on time, but I think identity is a conversation, Eduardo, that we need to have like one of these dialogues on, because in Puerto Rico it's crucial to start speaking more and more about identity. And I was, you know, speaking about this in other territories with Annalie last night, and it's just very important. Just wanted to put that in our list of
Yes.
dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely. So just for time's sake, we're gonna combine a little bit the final questions, and I'll give folks 1 minute each for the following 3 points. So you'll have a maximum of 3 minutes, and I'll give you kind of a note when we're approaching time. But basically, I want to hear one major success from the work that you've done, just briefly described, a significant challenge or one of the most significant challenges you faced, and then finally one action that you want leaders or the government to take to really open the door for younger generations, for the causes that you advocate for. So major success, most significant challenge, and one action that needs to happen from leaders or government to really open the door for newer generations in the different areas that you speak on. So a minute each, and then I'll make sure to note. So Gabrielle, do you think you could kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the major successes that I have experienced in my work, I actually have two. One, I feel like I've done a really great job at bridging the generational gap within our Virgin Islands. I think historically, the generations have always kind of been talking at each other or around each other, but not necessarily to each other in a way that I think real communication and collaboration can happen. And considering that much of our Virgin Islands population is an aging population, the connection between the generations, I think, is actually pivotal if we are to craft a Virgin Islands that kind of works for everybody. So I think I've done a very good job at crafting content that appeals to all generations of Virgin Islanders, and that's actually something I'm very proud of. Something else that I've found to be a success is that I feel like my content has built a bridge for the Virgin Islands diaspora. And so we've had people that have had to move because we don't have the infrastructure to support their families, whether it's children with disabilities or people that have complex medical issues. And we've also seen a huge amount of people leave the Virgin Islands after the hurricanes. And I think my content allows people to be able to still keep a bridge to their heritage and traditions. That's so important, I think, to the fabric of like a person and their identity, as we're talking about identity. The most significant challenge that I face is because we live in a small community, our community is very retribution based. Everybody knows everybody. And I feel like it becomes very easy to become a target and for punitive actions to be taken against you. And so I am constantly in the place where I have to consider how I'm going to deliver messages or what messages I even want to talk about, while trying to uphold my own integrity and my own personal sovereignty. I feel like I just have a really hard time navigating the courage that I think is required to do this labor of love. And one action that I think our government needs to do to open the door for younger generations is they have to find a way to keep young Virgin Islanders invested in the Virgin Islands. And I think that part of that is we're in a really pivotal place in the Virgin Islands right now where we are working on crafting our constitution. And I think that one of the major components of our constitution has to be a framework that preserves the rights of Native Virgin Islanders, their right to own land, as well as their right to exist in their native land.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gabrielle. Robin, do you want to go next?
Yes, I think I'm gonna start with saying that I am so glad that I am here in the space because I have learned so much in very little time. And I think that's also very important because the more we learn about each other's histories as territories, the more we can come together and maybe help each other's voices be stronger. But speaking about a strong voice, I think I'm gonna start with mostly talking about the most significant challenge that I have had in Puerto Rico when talking about advocacy for decolonization. Um, for example, I'll try to be resume what I'm trying to say. Um, so in 2022, I just wrote a simple tweet speaking about a specific character in Puerto Rican television that uh, just works to disinform the Puerto Rican population. If you know, you know. But yeah, this person and character just works to
Solo al medio,
disinform.
Comay.
Yeah. uh so yeah, I just wrote a tweet speaking about that this character should not be advocating for anything or just have a space in mass communication in Puerto Rico. And after that, that tweet went viral. At the time, I was working in a local newspaper, just very small. And after that, I not only got censored, but I got fired from my job with a very lazy excuse that, oh, you didn't enter an article that you had to enter last Monday, when I was literally working for like 3 different departments. And what I'm trying to say about this is the only reason that this person decided to attack me is because in my Twitter page, I had in my location, Republic of Puerto Rico. And this is something that have been major challenge because we're talking about maybe freedom of speech or freedom of press. And Puerto Rico is a small island, but it has such a strong voice. And we have been working with this information for such a long time because back in 1947, if I'm not wrong, we had the La Ley de la Mordaza, which is called in English the gag law. This law was built for Puerto Rico. Basically, we could not speak our language. We could not raise our flag. We cannot do our culture. And after this, just people got very in fear when we're talking about self-determination. People are scared, and also talking about the fact that we got persecuted. There was this thing called las carpetas, which is called the files, I guess, in English, where the United States government decided to chase every single Puerto Rican that they could think of if they suspected you to advocate for independence or just self-determination. They would chase you and make stories about you. I'll try to continue being small when I talk about this, but there's this specific professor in San Germán that I met him. He was talking about how he got filed back in I think it was the 60s. And he was talking about a specific story that there were 3 different files you could get. If you were, they would think that you were the worst of the worst, you would get the 3 of them. You would get chased by the FBI, the CIA, and just general department of people that would chase you because they would think you were advocating for Puerto Rican independence. And this person got a file, and in one of the write-ins that the person who would chase him wrote, they said, oh, this person were checking him because he flew to Russia, and in Russia he attended a communist meeting. This person didn't even have money for a plane ticket back in the days. This person, they had no reason to be in Russia. So this has been one of the most major challenges, just to get people out of that fear, just to educate people, because people are so in there that they think, oh, we're for self-determination, the U.S. is gonna come after us, we're gonna get persecuted again, or we're gonna end up really poor. And the narrative of communists, Cuba, Venezuela, all of this, they always use those 2 countries. They think there's like the only 2 countries in the map, I think, when they use that narrative.
Thank
So
you.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that's such a huge like narrative sort of obstacle, right? And I know that each territory has their own narratives.
Institutional violence.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just kicking off, Annalie, do you want to go and kind of give us your thoughts?
Robin, that was amazing. I didn't know it was still happening today. Anyway, my part. The most successful thing that I've done was to go to all the schools. I realized if Hollywood could do it, so can I. So I decided to be my own actress in my own videos. So I just started making videos, and then I went to the schools. I didn't need to get paid, just pretend I get paid, because me getting paid didn't matter. It was delivering the message. So I went to the schools and I told them everything that I was saying earlier. And so when they see me, I was telling them that I need you guys to know this, because in case your father, your parents, or your relatives are in office, or if not them in the future, you'll be in office. Hopefully that you make better changes in the world, and make that impact, because the kids are our future. What else have I done? Social media, going to the schools, in all the schools in all the chain of islands, including Guam. I always consider Guam as my people, because of course politically they're not a part of the Marianas, but they are a part of the Marianas. So I successfully pretty much did my advocacy through social media, going to the schools, and keeping the momentum. And now I'm working with things like making traditional things like coconut oil and stuff like that. And then that's how you engage in the momentum, because not everybody has a cell phone or know how to use a smartphone. So I have to like do all these other strategies, because for as long, because I know a lot of people want to learn Chamorro and then be Chamorro and do all these Chamorro things because they're here. So I just tell everybody, I'm like, you know what, you don't have to be Chamorro to wear the nice necklaces locals do. You don't have to be Chamorro to represent. Being Chamorro is just being here on the island. Chamorro, Falawash, Carolinian, we're all here. And if we just come as one, that's what we need. And then we can all be in this movement together. Some challenges would be, well, I decided to, I said that if the government can't help, then we should apply for that grant and help each other. And if the hard thing I'm trying to say is I try to speak up, and of course I realize that when you're in office, any office, even I have my own little office here, I barely even have time to do the little things. I'm not even a governor or anything, and I'm busy. So I decided I don't want to complain to the people in office. I want to make a change. I don't need an office to make a difference. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to go without them. And I'm just going to grab people, and if they grab me, like now, I'm here, then they do. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I'm just loving so many great perspectives, so many great successes and efforts. I really love the whole, well, if they won't do it, then let's find the resources and we'll do it ourselves. I love that energy. Jaya, do you want to go? Jaya?
Thank you. Um, I know I may seem like a successful person to my following and to my community, but by my own measure of success, I haven't gotten there yet. And I have had a lot of wins, but in terms of success, there's always work to be done. There's still work to be done, heaps of work, and I will continue to do that until I feel that I'm personally successful in something. Um, uh, uh, the most significant challenge for me has been finding the intersectional language that I can use in my advocacy, because a lot of times what works in the language that I use here in American Samoan and the Pacific can can seem harmful to Pacific Islanders of Soji identity who live in diaspora. And so that is the biggest challenge for me. And I still find myself saying things that might be harmful in different parts of the world, as true as it may be to my existence and to my people. I don't want to be that kind of advocate. Um, um, and actions. I think the biggest action that, and we've started the process of this, that the government needs to take, specifically the American Samoa government, is to have legislation um, that has language specific to the Samoan culture. Um, Basically, the Samoan language. We've adopted a lot of U.S. Laws and policies, but specifically for the Fa'afafine identity, I feel like that the word Fa'afafine itself and the word Fa'atane itself needs to be in the law, and not just the LGBTQI plus identities, because not all Fa'afafine identify as trans, not all Fa'afafine identify as gay men. And it's a unique spectrum in itself. And I want our government leaders to recognize that. So yeah, for me, the biggest thing the government needs to do is have language in our legislation that is inclusive of us. But yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I think I still have 10 seconds. Thank you for the opportunity. I love that this is my first time on a panel like this. It's so important to share these spaces, because oftentimes as U.S. territories were excluded in Pacific conversation and at the table that is specific to Pacific Islanders, Pacific leaders. And because we're left out, it almost makes me personally feel less Pacific Islander. So it's really important that we continue to have this kind of dialogue. Thank you.
Absolutely. 100%. Thank you so much. And then to
This
kind of
is
close
one
up.
of the, and this is one of the, I'm sorry, I have to say, this is one of the objectives of these activities, is to visibilize the voices in the territories, because like Robin says, we might be very powerful in Puerto Rico, sometimes even very, very powerful in terms of voice. Not all territories have the same access to like outside attention. And how do we get to know each other if we don't speak? So it is very important to so I have to say, Jaya, that when we found you, we were ecstatic, because it is usually most difficult to find people from American Samoa to participate in these dialogues. and I will be going there. We're doing the listening tour again this year. We are concentrating on arts, decolonization through the arts and monuments. So I will be visiting all the territories, and I'm going to write to you so that you can participate in the dialogue, and even if you can help me identify artists, it will be wonderful.
Definitely.
But thank
We'd be
you,
glad to host.
everybody.
Thank you. Wonderful. All right, so just for time's sake, Edward, close us out.
All right, first of all, let me just say, damn good job, everyone. Damn good answers, right? It's such an inspiration to hear everyone speak. And Robin Lee, damn it, what happened to you was absolutely terrible, and you have nothing but my respect for continuing. And so just to start off, I would just say this. There's a saying, for one of my successes where if you can't explain an idea to a 6-year-old, then you don't understand it yourself. So I would say that's one of my big successes, which was able to take complex information and to be able to break it down for everyone, not just for academics, though I could speak to academics, not for just children, but for everyone. Make the ideas simple. Number two, my most significant challenge, and I know all of us here probably faced it too, is staying consistent. Because there are times where I take month breaks, 2-month breaks. I'm like that college student who says, oh, I'll go back to school next semester. Oh, I'll go back to school next year. But, in reality, I'm just chilling, right? So there's times where I just take so long not to make anything, but I'm trying to do better than that. So that's one of my big challenge for me, staying consistent. And last, the one thing I want the government to do, which I think would open the door to younger generations, would be on focusing on digital literacy in the public school system. And I think by focusing on digital literacy, by having classes on political participation, social advocacy, we could teach young people how to engage with political issues and use online platforms effectively. Hell, I would want like Eduardo Ortiz, for example, to be a digital teacher advocacy at the biggest school in Puerto Rico, for example. Let's get more people like him as educators to teach young people how to effectively use these platforms so they could feel empowered and have an active role in shaping their future. So again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Eduardo Ortiz, for being a great host, and also for you, Addie, for also being a great host, and for every single person here in this panel. Amazing, amazing job, everyone.
Thank you so much, Edward, for those remarks. This has been sort of fantastic and lovely, just to echo Edward's remarks about everyone giving such great perspectives on a diversity of issues and how each of you have approached the problem of speaking up. I think if just to kind of close out a little bit this evening, the one thought that keeps coming to mind is that these spaces are important, that these platforms matter. Even just taking the time to sit here and to everyone who's watching, to everyone who will watch in the future, these resources are so important because I'm sure there's tons of people across the territories who are wanting to speak up about issues going on in their community, about the problems that they face, about, that feel unheard is what I'm trying to say. And hearing from you and hearing from your experience can empower others, right? A theme that keeps coming up is how territories are invisibilized. They're placed to the side. They're not considered often. And these platforms and these efforts that you've all created allow for voices that normally would be off to the side, have increased the reach incredibly, so that your message can go out, so that our message can resonate. And so what I would just encourage folks is to keep at it, to keep growing, to keep lifting up those voices. And however us here at Right to Democracy can help, we're always happy to. And yeah, to never forget that your voices matter, and to not only our participants here, but to everyone here listening, your voice matters and speaking up matters. As you can see, if there's any proof, it's these wonderful people who have spoken to you today, and who will continue doing sort of having an amazing impact on their communities going forward. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Adi to formally close us out. Oh, sorry, you're muted.
You see, this is what I was gonna say. I was like, thank you, Eduardo. I am fascinated that a group of such, and I have to say, look at each other, beautiful people, not because of your rasgos, of your characteristics, although there's no denying the diversity in this group because of who we are. And at the same time, it is the passion that you bring. Tonight, I think there are very important themes that run through every one of you. The necessity to rediscover or redefine our identities and protect those identities. The need to protect our land. The need to protect our resources. And I identify so much with our neighbors from the Virgin Islands that are having such difficulty protecting their nature, because we are also going through that in Puerto Rico, but they are smaller. It's hard. And the need to protect the language. I always say, you know, when I went to Guam last year, they were like, oh my God, we admire you so much because you have Spanish. And I was like, no, I admire you that you have Chamorro, even with 5 different colonizers. And, you know, this Spanish is the language of our first colonizers. We are struggling to redefine our identity. So these conversations are so important. How to define identity, how to protect our land, how to protect our language, how people can stay. Jaya, like this thing about exporting people as our main economic, you know, market is not, it's horrible. I know it's horrible in American Samoa because I was there, but it happens in all of our territories too. There is, and in our report, you will see data. It's 11.6% decrease of population in all of the territories in the past 10 years. Okay, so we don't want to keep losing our people, the capacity to be able to stay and to stay near our families, in our paradises. We don't want our paradise to be just the place to for others to come and play, like it happens in our territories, our islands. And also, I just wanted to mention what Robbie mentioned, the importance to heal the damage done by institutional violence. Institutional violence that is always happening and keeps happening, be it in the form of not being able to define our own terms, like Jaya, you said, like there's things in our culture that are not defined by the words from outside. But also it's happening in Guam with and North Mariana Islands with the army basically pillaging land. Still, like today, the army is displacing people to do exercises, something that we went through in Puerto Rico not that long ago either, and in the Virgin Islands. And so institutional violence that still happens. Your voices are so important. And I have to say, you make us proud. You make people with white hairs very proud, because there's this narrative about young people don't care. But young people are the ones that are breaking barriers, using these digital instruments. Keep that growing. And I think I say in Spanish, ustedes son la esperanza. Like, you are our hope. And I really believe, and I am very hopeful that through this new, I'm not afraid of AI because you exist. So thank you so much for everything that you do. And thank you for taking your time to be here. Remember, please follow us in our social media, Right to Democracy, in all platforms. Also in our webpage, you can find the reports of our listening to last year, the Building a Movement report, and the Power of Listening report that might be of interest to all of you. It's about the perceptions of colonialism in each of the territories. And be on the lookout for our next dialogues and activities. And I hope to see each one of you when I go visit your territory soon. I'm in Puerto Rico, Robin, so there is no excuse, okay? So thank you so much. And let's keep in touch.